Hello and welcome to the Poetry Pea Cast. This week's episode is a recording of our very first Poetry Pea Salon event of the year, a wonderful reading by Reid Hepworth from her award-winning collection, The Improbability of Sea Monkeys. I wasn't intending to say very much this week. I thought I'd leave all the heavy lifting to Reid, but she had some rather splendid news since the event, and I wanted to share it with you before we settled in to hear her reading. The Improbability of Sea Monkeys has been awarded an HSA, that's Haiku Society of America, Merit Book Award. It placed third in the Haibun category. And you're about to hear why. But this is what the judges wrote. Hepworth's The Improbability of Sea Monkeys offers an evocative collection of haiku and haibun that succeeds on at least 3 levels. It is a deeply personal chronicle of a young girl growing up in the 60s and 70s, coming to terms with her sexual identity. Historically, anyone who lived in that time period will surely appreciate the numerous references shaping the era. The quality of work is superior in its simple, honest integrity and concrete imagery. It is a joy to read. It's always lovely when a collection receives this kind of recognition, and I'm especially delighted for Reid. If you were with us at the salon, you'll already know what a generous and engaging poet she is. And if you weren't, then you're in for a real treat. Settle yourself down, get a cup of tea, or if you're out on a walk, get into that sort of mood where you want to hear some brilliant poetry, and we'll go and have a listen. Today is a joyous day. I get to visit once again with Reid Hepworth. Yes, this is her second time here to read to us at Poetry Pea. I will put a link to her first reading in the show notes, don't worry, so you can go and check that out if you haven't heard it. For those of you who don't know Reid, she's a Pushcart Prize and Touchstone nominated poet whose haibun, tanka and related forms have been published in journals and anthologies internationally. She's a former associate editor of Haiku Kata and is, I believe, an associate editor over at Drifting Sands Haibun. She also plays the ukulele, and I think last time I threatened to make you play us in and out, Reid, but I forgot to remind you, so I will let you off this time. But next time, number 3, when you get your wings, it's ukulele time. Now, before we meet Reid again, I have to tell you that today we're doing something a little different. She's got a live audience. Ooh. Thank you to all the Poetry Pea members who are here on the Zoom call to listen and who I hope will stay to chat to Reid at the end of our session together and have some great questions for her. And this is just the first of what I hope will be a monthly Zoom for members of Poetry Pea who can get to talk to wonderful poets such as Reid. And maybe, as part of my monthly doodahs, I'll do other things like open mic events. Now, enough about me, or from me. Reid, time to hear a little bit from you. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here. I love what you guys do at Poetry Pea, at the podcast, at the Pea Towers, the journals, all of it. It's such a beautiful thing. And so it's an honor to be here. And I have to say, of anyone who I would love to have read my work, it would be you, because you've got the best voice.
I wish, but thank you for that. Now, as we were sort of going back and forth, I said to you, I often expect you to give us poems from the great outdoors, but we're not going to do that today, really. So I thought if you wouldn't mind, we could hear one of your outdoorsy poems, and it's from the Mann Library. I mean, I don't know where else it's from, but I found it on the Mann Library on the 7th of May this year, and I wondered, could you read it to us, please?
You bet. First spring, a whale breaches blue sky. First spring, a whale breaches blue sky.
Thank you, Reid. I thought it would be interesting for everyone to hear just, how versatile you are. Also, I've got a thing about whales, and I
Mm,
have gone all over the world trying to find them with very, very little success. But I will keep going. I will keep going. Anyway, we're not here to talk about whales. We are going to hear from your book, The Improbability of Sea Monkeys. I'll say that again because I made a right hash of it. The Improbability of Sea Monkeys. It's a book which Terry L. French says in the introduction explores the entire emotional landscape of growing up. And she rightly says it's got poems of depth, compassion, insight, and empathy. And it would appear that you've been growing up about the same time as me. So I can really relate to much, but not all of what you're talking about. But more of that later. So, Reid, I wondered, could you start us off by reading the poem which gives the collection its name, please?
sure. Five and Dime Shop. The Improbability of Sea Monkeys. Five and Dime Shop. The Improbability of Sea Monkeys.
Now, this book is a large volume. Well, it's a larger volume than the previous work. So you had lots of pieces of work that you could have taken the title from. So it got me wondering, why this one? Why did you go for this particular poem as a title piece?
Um, it was really it was first off, it was challenging for me to come up with a title. I started writing this book. It took me about 4 years to do it. And my working title for much of those 4 years was Fortitude. But as I published my first book, and I was reading more and more books of poetry, I noticed that most poets would use either the title of a poem or a line from a poem. And I went through all of the things in my book and couldn't really figure it out. And I gave it to my partner. My partner very much is super helpful for me in this regard, and said, "What about that?" And I thought, "Oh yeah, that actually it makes a lot of sense." It's because sea monkeys were super important to us as kids in the 60s and 70s. Anytime you went into a corner shop and bought your comic book, there was an advertisement of it. And uh, for me, I was a really literal kid. And so I saw the advertisements, and they had these very kind of Dr. Seussish kind of cartoon characters with crowns, and between a sea monkey or snow, something like from the water and something from outer space, very colorful. I thought that's what I was going to get. That's not what I got. So,
I
so
know,
yeah.
been
So if you
there.
don't know sea monkeys or brine shrimp. So yeah, anyway, so that's where the title came from. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I felt it encapsulated that time period, especially if you were growing up in North America. Yeah.
Okay. I think, I mean, there are people in our audience who might contradict me, but I grew up in the UK. I didn't see sea monkeys till I had my own kids. And I think that's so, yeah, I would have found them in the UK and not here in Switzerland. But yeah, and I was I didn't know when I bought them, I thought, what on earth are these things going to be? I can't possibly be monkeys. As you said, they're a shrimp, a variation of a shrimp. And
Yeah.
they were somewhat underwhelming, as it turns out. I
Extremely,
thought,
extremely, yeah, extremely underwhelming. Didn't look anything at all like the cartoon character depiction.
not
Yeah,
at all, not at all. Now, Reid, enough from me. I'm going to hand over the reins to you and let you carry on.
sounds good. So my first piece I'm going to read to you is a Haibun called Nature Studies. I grew up on the west coast of British Columbia, and my family had a log cabin in the mountains, and it was my happy place. So this Haibun is based on that. Nature Studies. From my perch on the rope swing, I glimpse patches of azure breaking through the canopy of trees. Wanting a better look, I shimmy up the rope, pulling myself up higher so that I can see the meandering creek below our cabin and the black bear that is pawing at the moss. The black bear that just walked beside our blueberry bushes and my swing. Riffle beetles crawl up the rocks, trickle of water. Riffle beetles crawl up the rocks, trickle of water. At first, I held my breath when the bear walked past. It was so close that I could smell the freshness of it, see the brambles in its coat and the bare patch on its rump. Despite its size, it hardly made any noise at all, just a snuffle here and there. Dappled light, the crisscrossing threads of a spider's web. Dappled light, the crisscrossing threads of a spider's web. Initially, I was frightened because bears are something to be cautious about, but my curiosity overrode the fear. I've been watching it, standing from my perch on the swing's knotted seat, or by shimmying up the rope, wrapping my legs around it like we do in gym class. I've pulled myself up and down and slid down so many times that my hands are blistered and the skin is raw. It hurts, but I don't mind. I'm mesmerized. A glittering within the detritus, pack rat's midden. A glittering within the detritus, pack rat's midden. The bear appears to contemplate everything, the ground, the rocks, the creek bed, even the air. I find my breath slowing down and a peaceful energy enveloping me. I want to move through life with the grace of a bear, to be aware of everything that is around me and know I am part of it all. I can't think of anything more beautiful than that. A handful of morels and some pocket lint, show and tell. A handful of morels and some pocket lint, show and tell. Playing school after school, my reimagined life. Playing school after school, my reimagined life. Now, this is also Haibun, is also something that I think probably a lot of people have gone through, a lot of children go through still, unfortunately. Even adults go through this sort of experience. It's called instinct. I see him every day at recess. He sits by himself on the floor by the boys' entrance. He doesn't eat. He just sits quietly and keeps to himself. I think he's like me, lonely. Whispers in the playground. I push past my butterflies, ignore my fears. Whispers in the playground. I push past my butterflies, ignore my fears. Over the next few days, I make sure to smile at him as I walk past. He doesn't acknowledge me and instead stares right through me. Nothing new there. I remain committed and keep at it until he finally looks at me. I have to admit, it's not the most welcoming look, but I take it as an invitation and plop down beside him on the floor. I do all the talking. He just sits there and eats my snack. His hands pinning me down, schoolyard chants. His hands pinning me down, schoolyard chants. Something a little bit lighter now. Also, Haibun, tuned in, tuned out. Not sure if anyone here knows Wolfman Jack, but he played a big part in my external world as a kid. He was a disc jockey. So tuned in, tuned out. For my birthday, my parents buy me a realistic portable radio from Radio Shack. It's not very good. Mostly I just hear static, tinny rock, or the crackle of our neighbor's ham radio. My dad, being a sound technician and a lover of loud music, decides to build me an external speaker. This is one of those times where I have to remind myself to be careful what I wish for. Dad has a tendency towards creativity. Like the time he built a wooden couch for our cabin and painted it bright orange. And then built a sailboat in our basement and painted it orange too. It takes my dad a couple of weeks, but the wait is worth it. My new speaker is amazing. It's bigger than me. Mom calls it the baby coffin. However, I'm not daunted by this, as none of my friends have anything remotely like it. This is epic. I decide to show off my new sound system, and to prepare, I spend the day emptying my closet of clothes and replacing them with my doll table, a chair, the radio, and speaker. I'm going to create my very own radio station with me as the disc jockey. Even better, I have a full-length window in my closet, which opens onto the front porch and street below. Imagine everyone's surprise when I start broadcasting. Just like Dad, I like my music loud. Yowling through the night, cat on a fence. Yowling through the night, cat on a fence. So this one is a bit of a heavier one, and I think we'll talk about this more later on. It's called Blinders On. The ambulance arrives. The living room rug is covered in blood, not mine. When I was really small, I used to pretend that the grooves in the rug were little islands. My tiny feet would jump from island to island, and I would pretend to be on great adventures, making up stories as I moved around the room. Now the islands border rust-covered rivers, the blood following the path of least resistance, streams and streams of it. I can't imagine ever wanting to be in this room again. When the paramedic tries to talk to me, I look at him and say nothing. Hot tears run down my face. I'm so upset, I want to scream. I don't even care that I look ugly, my face contorted, red and blotchy. I replay all the other times I've been here before, and as the paramedics wheel the stretcher in, I look out the front window and notice the neighbors have their curtains drawn. Thunderstorm. The turtle retreats into its shell. Thunderstorm. The turtle retreats into its shell. And now a little bit later, something. Driver's ed and training bras, things I can't master. Driver's ed and training bras, things I can't master. Growth spurt. I've never been good at school, so when I decide to get my first aid badge for Girl Guides, my parents are supportive but cautious. Their mantra, just try your best, prods me forward. I want to make them proud, for sure, but more than that, I really want to earn the badge for my sash. So 2 weekends in a row, a friend and I take the bus across town to the St. John's ambulance for our training. There we practice making braces for broken legs, rings for impaled objects, slings, and chest compressions. It's practical, hands-on training and fun. Still, no one is as surprised as I am when I pass the course. As a reward, my folks gift me with movie tickets to see The Great Waldo Pepper, an adult movie. Even better, they buy me a new outfit to wear, a brushed denim jean set. It's the first pair of jeans I've owned that doesn't have an elasticized waist, and the top has an embroidered cactus with a setting sun emblazoned on the back. I pair the outfit with my red rubber cowboy boots and feel like a star on movie night. When we arrive at the theater, Dad hands me some money and tells me to pick out something at the concession stand. I order the largest popcorn I can and ask to sit by myself in the row ahead of my parents. For 90 minutes, I sit transfixed, watching the actors bring the story to life. Robert Redford, Susan Sarandon, and Margot Kidder. I crush on them all, try to figure out who I like best. Maybe it's the badge, or maybe it's the outfit, but in this theater, in this moment, I feel a whole new world opening up for me. One with a door I didn't even know existed. Perhaps this is what it means to grow up. Seesaw. Should I like boys or girls? Seesaw. Should I like boys or girls? Close. She smells like candy floss. It's her lip gloss. Sparkles dot her mouth, and when she smiles, my heart skips a beat. I imagine what those lips would feel like against mine. She, of course, is clueless. I decide to take matters into my own hands. I tell her I'm going to teach her how to skateboard. It's the only thing my 14-year-old self thinks I'm good at, And since she's already told me that she likes the color of my pink Sims skateboard wheels, I convince myself this is the way to her heart. We agree to meet outside the shops the next morning for her first lesson. I start with the easy stuff: balance, dominant footing. I throw in some technical jargon just to impress her. When she stands on the board, she falters and grabs my arm. I happily let her lean into me and gently push her along. She grins and my whole being opens up. Things couldn't get any better. On her first attempt to ride solo, she hits a pebble on the sidewalk. My skateboard flies out from underneath her and straight towards the extremely large department store window. We watch in horror as my board hits the glass. Without thinking, I grab her hand and we run like hell. It's not until I turn and see the security guard running after us that I remember my skateboard, my beautiful board with my name and phone number etched on the bottom. Bus stop bench. 2 initials carved inside a pink sparkly heart. Bus stop bench. 2 initials carved inside a pink sparkly heart. Far from perfect. Too long on the vine, peas in a pod. Too long on the vine, peas in a pod. She follows me around the school cafeteria, quietly asking what she's done wrong. How many times have I been in the exact same situation? Shoe on the other foot, it doesn't stop the foul from exiting my mouth and shitting on her pure and innocent heart. Fact checker. I wasn't always an angel. Fact checker. I wasn't always an angel. Peeling back the layers, I become me. Peeling back the layers, I become me.
Reid, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I just love to hear poets read their own work. To me, there's nothing better. And this was superb. And I know I do have some questions for you, but as you were reading that, I was thinking, I wonder, do we all remember our very first pair of proper jeans? I know I do too. So mine didn't have a cactus on. They had this sort of colourful parroty thing. Goodness knows what I was thinking when I bought them. But anyway, so yes, let's get to those questions that I had for you as I listened to you read and as I read the book myself. You say in your foreword, Reid, that these poems were inspired by real events in your childhood. And to go back to what Teriel French said when she was writing the intro, she said, you catalogue the ups and downs of childhood. With heart on the sleeve honesty, she, that's you, tackle the alienation, the occasional joys, and the downright surreality of youth, often returning to the pitfalls and delights of emerging sexuality. Now, I enjoyed the whole, well, actually, would you say enjoy? We'll get to that in a minute, but let's say enjoy. I enjoy and appreciated all the work. But I could strongly relate to the parts where you talk about your emerging sexuality, not because we shared all the same experiences, some but not all, but because just from things that you've said in the book, I was pretty sure we were growing up the same time, albeit in different continents. And I think some of the emotions you were grappling with would have been so hard to talk about at the time. And I did have one poem in mind to talk to you about, but I want to make it 2 now. So the first one that sort of said that to me was red light, green light, the slippery slope to second base. Red light, green light, the slippery slope to second base. I mean, I think wherever you grow up, whatever era you grow up in, that's a big one. then as I was listening to you read, I thought, how difficult must this have been in that era? Seesaw, should I like boys or girls? Seesaw, should I like boys or girls? And I'm close to somebody who grew up in the era too, who was going through that, and it was so difficult and has led to trauma much later in life as well. Um, so I think it was quite brave of you to to talk about these things. How easy was it for you to write some of these poems?
Well, to write them was easy because there's been decades that have
Okay.
passed since. To live it was not so easy
Mm,
because back then people didn't talk about this. I mean, even in sex ed in school, we didn't, it was all heterosexual. You didn't talk about anything different was just weird and just kind of taboo to talk about. People were very closeted back then. So yeah, no, we didn't talk about it. But writing for me was easy. This stuff has been in my DNA for,
mhm.
I'm 62. It's been in my DNA for a very long time. So, it's cathartic to write about it for sure.
So did you write? I mean, did you write about this? Have you always written about this to try and help with what you were going through, or has this really become more solid as you've become more competent and professional in your writing?
I think I've always written,
Hmm.
and I've always because I can just say in my home environment, we didn't talk. There was no real talking. So writing for me was a way to get my feelings and stuff out. So yeah, it's always been there. But I haven't been writing about this stuff like for all this time.
Hmm.
I mean, I basically just started writing this stuff 4 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, I wrote lots of other things before that.
I
Yeah.
know. um, so my next question is really, and it brings us to that piece, which was quite heavy, blinders on. Um, but I think it applies to some of the other pieces too. Did you need that distance to really be able to sit down and write about it? And so I've got a few questions based on blinkers on, actually. So did you need the distance to be able to write about it? And I felt when I was reading it that there was still more to tell. And I wondered, were you not in a place to tell us more? Or was this a way, or the way you wrote it, was this a way to really have more impact, if you like, with the piece?
Distance, yes. I had a number of experiences like this as a child. Um, and I wouldn't have had the vocabulary to have dealt with this when I was younger. And I did a lot of therapy as well. So that also helped too. But yeah, the distance made it easier for me to write about. But also like my background, I'm a
Yeah.
therapist by training. So, and I worked with children with trauma. So that's my thing about being transparent.
Hmm.
So knowing your own stuff, right? So there's that part. And then the second part, what was the second part that you just asked me about? Um,
Oh,
Distance and then
yes. Was it, as I said, I felt that you could have told us more, that there was more to tell. Did you not want to go there, basically? Was it too hard to go there, or was it to increase the tension, to have more impact in the piece, that you didn't go any further?
I deliberately didn't state what happened there simply because I wanted the reader to be able to put their own take on it. We
Mhm.
know that so many people have gone through experiences like this before, so being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes can be very helpful, can be very cathartic to know that you're not alone. By naming it, I think would have taken some of that energy out of it for me. So yeah, that's for me. I could easily have named it. I don't have a problem naming this stuff.
Okay.
But for that particular piece, that particular piece was really important for me to get right. And I felt that that's the best way for me to do it.
Mhm. Yeah, I read and reread that one and listened to you read it again, and I went over in my mind, would it have been better to go into more detail, or have you left it just in the right place? And I think ultimately I come out with, yeah, you've probably left it just in the right place, because it plays through my mind so
Mm.
often. It's a wonderful piece. As I said, not enjoyable necessarily, but I can appreciate that piece. Like I
Mhm.
did appreciate the craft that went into it. And then I have another one, which again I think really, I mean, it's hard just to pick on a couple of them in the whole book, because the book is full of work that I could talk about. Um, but another one I wanted to highlight was Instinct. And I read and reread this one so many times because the poem at the end just really threw me. And I wondered at the time if it's because I could just see myself doing exactly what you were doing with what I presumed you were doing with this boy. And the poem at the end is his hands pinning me down, schoolyard chants. His hands pinning me down, schoolyard chants. And it turns the piece on it, for me anyway, it turned the piece on its head. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting a nice little end to that one, thanks, Reid. I thought you were going to have a breakthrough with him. I thought you were going to solve his loneliness problems. He would still be a bit of a loner, but he would come and eat with you at lunchtime or whatever. But oh no, oh no. So this ending really surprised me. And I just thought, what a juxtaposition in the piece. I mean, presumably that's what happened, but it just had it had, it had a real impact. I thought the way you brought it through, and I wondered, did you want to tell us anything about that little boy and that little girl who was trying to help,
It was
presumably
a little
trying to
boy.
help?
Yeah, it was a little boy. Yeah, I've always been a glass half full optimist, and I've always tried my best to uh, befriend, and also because I think I was such a vulnerable child, I could see vulnerabilities in other kids, um, but because of my vulnerabilities, I wouldn't trust my own instincts. And so for me, that piece, I tried to layer in the title, Instinct,
Mhm.
with, pushing down my fears and then to putting that piece in there as a way to sort of try to prepare the reader. But it obviously doesn't always work, right?
No, oh,
Yeah.
I
But
was
yeah,
shocked. 'Cause-
yeah, I was shocked in the experience because I thought I was doing a good job, but no, unfortunately, that was not a good experience at all. It was a really awful experience, and one I did learn that I do have to listen to my gut a bit more.
yeah, that's maybe, but actually you bring up an interesting question there. So you've got three things um, working together. You've got your title, you've got the prose element, and then you've got the short form poetry element. So how did you go about, or maybe it's a general thing, I don't know if you do the same thing every time. How did you go about, particularly with this piece, putting it all together? What comes first?
The prose always comes first for me.
Really? Okay.
Very occasionally, I can come up with a haiku or senaru first. And when I do, it usually works out really well. But for me, I guess because when I used to write before, it was always short stories and stuff. So that's just really natural for me to do. It feels really comfortable. And because the stories are, like I said, they're in my DNA. So it's just easy for me to go like that. Um, and then the haiku is always the hardest part. It's my weakest link in life. I think in terms of being a writer, I have the hardest time with haiku and senaru. I just do. I don't trust myself with it. So that one had there was numerous poems that went into that, to the making of that. And then the title comes last for me, to try to link them all.
So do you have a reader that gives you a bit more confidence in your poetry? Shouldn't call it poetry because it's all poetry, but should we call it the short form poem, whatever piece you put in?
Yeah.
Do you have someone who reads that for you and says, okay?
I do. I usually, it's always with my partner first. I usually read aloud, although that's not her preferred comfort level. She likes to read them first, but I usually read them aloud. And then Sangeeta Keller-Rickle, Birch are people that I go to. They're fantastic. They always give fantastic feedback. So we do that for each other, and it's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I know you've worked with them before because we'll come on to it in a while, but um, I think some of the work you've done, definitely with Sangeeta, was either Touchstone or Pushcart nominated. I don't know if Susan was involved in that sequence.
No, yeah, no. Susan has helped me, like she helped me significantly with my first book, because I had no clue how to put it together.
Yeah.
So she was fantastic because she's such a fantastic poet, and she was when I thought about who I could ask to help me, she was the first person I thought of because of her all of her Tanka experience and just her writing and just who she is. So yeah, so she helped with that. But Sangeeta and I have collaborated on a number of pieces. Always fun to do.
I wish I had the time to do more personally, but anyway, Reid, it's been a while since this book came out, and it took us ages to get the previous Lost as a River to get together to read that one. So I'm guessing you've either got a new book out or you've got something that you're working on. Tell us, what is it?
I am working on something. It's not very far developed yet. I'm not 100% sure where it's going, but I do have something in the works. Yeah. It's good. It's good to be doing. Keep him busy.
Okay, fair enough. I know when you get to our age, you've got to keep the mind ticking over, haven't you?
True.
I'm being rude. I'm sorry. I won't talk to you about my memory problems. Anyway, Reid, thank you. I think we can all hear why you've been nominated for Touchstone and for the Pushcart prizes. And it's been a real pleasure to listen to you again today and to chat to you. Thank you for coming along and reading to us from The Improbability of Sea Monkeys. So now, the important bit, how do people get hold of the book? And it's honestly, it's a good chunk of book. So people should go out and buy it. Tell us, how do they go out and buy it?
It's available on Amazon and pretty much
Okay.
every. You could also get it from the publisher, Adisacrat, in India, but most people would probably get it on Amazon. Or if you want a signed copy, drop me a message on Facebook Messenger or wherever, and we can do an exchange. I like
Oh,
exchanges. Yeah.
now
It's
there's an
easier,
idea.
much easier dealing with it. Yeah.
um, Thank you. I'll put all those links on the show notes so people can not worry about having a notebook handy at the moment. So that's it for the reading for today. Time to say goodbye to everyone. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
But of course, Reid, we're not actually going anywhere because we have a little room full of guests who I hope have thought of some questions for you and want to chat to you. And if you're a member of Poetry Pea and weren't able to join us today, don't worry, you'll be getting a bonus section of the podcast with more Reid and more chat. So thank you ever so much again, Reid. It's been terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we all head off, congratulations once again to Reid Hepworth on her well-deserved HSA Merit Book Award for the wonderful Improbability of Sea Monkeys. And my heartfelt thanks to her for such a wonderful reading and for being so open, honest, and generous during the question and answer session afterwards. It truly was a delight. Now, I can almost hear some of you saying, hang on, what question and answer session? Well, that's because you weren't there. One of the benefits of being a Poetry Pea member is that you'll be in the room, so to speak, for these salon events, if you choose to be. After the reading or presentation, we stay on for a Q&A with the poets, where members can ask questions and hear the conversations that continue after the formal event has finished. If you'd like to join us, simply support the podcast with a membership and the door will magically open for you. But whether you are with us live at the salon or have joined us today through the podcast, thank you so much for spending your time with us. It's been a real pleasure to have your company. And don't forget, you'll find a link to Reid's award-winning collection, The Improbability of Sea Monkeys, in the show notes. So, until we meet again next week, make sure you keep writing. Ciao.